All right, well, I guess it's my turn to do introductions then. Well, thank you and welcome all to the HUS for student trustee position. So obviously Dana and Agatha and I will be the moderators of this full HUS procedure. And we've already taken attendance, so that's not necessary. The only thing is that obviously because Serene is not here, we will have to like read her statement as a response to question 1. And yeah, I mean, I think with that, we're ready to start with question 1 if you want to go.
Yeah, so I'll ask Adam first. And then we can read out Serene's answer after everyone has given their speech. So the question is basically, why do you think you are the best candidate to run for student trustee of the Oxford Student Union? And tell us more about what you can bring to the student union and what your main policies and objectives are. So yeah, let's start with Adam, and then it's followed by Marcus, and then Daniel, and then Uri.
Cool. All right.
Oh,
Thanks
also,
a lot.
you are there's like a 1-minute limit on your answers.
The first one's 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, but then we have to mute you if you go over the limit. So yeah.
Cool. Can I go?
Yes.
All right. Cheers. Okay. Well, thanks so much for the question. Well, I think that the most important thing when it comes to a student trustee is experience with student representation and being able to listen to the student body and really think about what their needs are. So I've been a student representative for all of my student life, basically, which has been now more than 5 years. And I've also been an NUS delegate at my previous university, at the University of Leeds. I'm currently studying an MPhil degree here, so I'm going to be for 2 years as well, which gives me more insight into the inner workings of this university. And I'm just really good at communicating with people, and I've already got friends in the union, and Devika is a member of my college. So that all really helps to, if you know who to talk to and where to go, that's super important. That's the time. That's not the time.
That's 1 minute. Yeah.
Right. So that's 1 more minute to go.
Yes.
All right. Cheers. Okay, in terms of policies, I think the most important thing at the minute is to look at how can we enhance the support for people who have been affected by the COVID pandemic, members of the student body. This would be my #1 priority to look at. How can we get more money into the Student Hardship Fund? How can we find more ways to make sure that people who are struggling, especially economically, know where to go or who to talk to? And the second goal would be to look at our investment policy and think about arms, especially arms manufacturing companies and companies that harm the environment. So vote for Adam for your #1 and for your #1 student trustee. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Let's move on to Marcus next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marcus. I'm a baby human rights lawyer from Australia, and I'm in my first year of a DPhil in Oxford and my second year in Oxford, having done my master's last year. Students like me come to Oxford very excited, very looking forward to many things, but we also come to Oxford vulnerable to an institution that we're not familiar with, which is complex and which is divided and decentralized in a way that means many of our issues and our concerns don't get the attention paid to them that they need quickly. Students deserve to have their student rights and needs paid attention to, and the university is very good at avoiding this and delaying. Their power is delay and short institutional memory of students. Their strength is to wait and to avoid things. Our power is our union and the way that it brings us together and allows us to negotiate and push for things that we can't do by ourselves. Our union is not just a club with a budget to spend. It is our collective strength against our negotiation disadvantage. We need people on the board who are strong negotiators and who want to push the union towards doing collective action and advocacy in a way that is stronger than just ordinary policy. I propose to serve in this way as I've done before. I've been in 7 elected student leadership positions previously, including as a college president and as a student union SRC member, and I've pushed for inclusion, for safety on campus, for policy reform, for non-alcoholic and alcoholic events inclusive for everyone, and for COVID-19 support. This is what we need, and I hope to serve you on our union.
All right, thank you. Next we have Daniel Cotton.
Hiya, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Daniel, and I'm a DPhil student working in cancer research, and I'm hoping to be one of the student trustees at the Oxford SU. I've got 4 key policies. Firstly, I want to strengthen feedback loops to make it easier for students to raise complaints to the union. And I'll do this by creating a dedicated page on our website with an open form that's regularly monitored. And then I'll publish regular "you said, we did" documents telling you what the union's done in response to this feedback. Secondly, I hope to improve transparency by providing digestible summaries of meeting minutes in a variety of accessible formats. Next, I'll enhance consultation with union members to establish strategic priorities for allocation of funding and then ensure that funding is distributed according to this. Finally, I want to better support current and potential future student representatives, for example, by providing free emerging leaders qualifications to our students to empower students to take up leadership roles in the future and strengthen our student voice. Next, I wanted to talk just a little about why I'm experienced for this role. I served as president of the Pediatric Society at my medical school, which involved running volunteering, fundraising, and mentorship programs. And this gave me experience in ensuring compliance with extensive union and government policies regulating our activities, things like GDPR and safeguarding. And these are vital responsibilities of charity trustees. In addition, I've experienced handling significant fiscal responsibility in my role as Whitehall Committee President, where I managed a budget of tens of thousands of pounds to ensure fair and equitable spending. And finally, I wanted to say that I'm truly dedicated to enhancing the student experience, and I've shown this through my work as welfare officer and peer support coordinator at my college, and I'm really hoping to take this work further in the union to ensure all students have an equal opportunity to flourish here. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel. And next we have Uri Charles.
Hi, my name is Uri. I use he, him pronouns. I study physics in my 3rd year at Wadham, and I would also like to be Oxford SU student trustee. My main focus is that I want to improve the institutional memory of Oxford SU to sort of take away the power of delay, as Marcus said, but basically to make sure that Oxford SU can work as efficiently as possible in implementing long-term change. I also want to make it really, really easy for students to get involved in the SU. And I think the first step to this is communicating better how it actually works in practice and having much more open and active dialogue with JCRs and MCRs. I also want to strengthen ties with the city and county councils to ensure that we have good student representation in those areas as well, like bike lanes or student safety, like street lighting, for example. 2 reasons why I think you should vote for me. One is my experience. I have been, for example, as a teenager, one of 18 people to be elected to represent over 60,000 secondary school students in the Munich City Council and its committees for a full year. Here in Oxford, I've been involved in Wadham SU since the start of my studies and in student representation in general. I was Wadham SU Vice President, now I'm Academic and Careers Officer. I've also been representing my year in the physics department for the past 2.5 years, and I regularly attended Oxford SU Student Council as a Wadham delegate, so I'm also quite familiar with the Oxford SU. And the second reason, and I think a quite important one, is that I'm really passionate and motivated about student issues, and it's not just like a temporary motivation, as I've been able to sustain that motivation for the past 8 years that I've been in student representation. So yeah, please do read my manifesto. Do contact me with any questions or concerns. I'm always happy to have a chat. And yes, I hope I can convince you to vote for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Uri, and the rest of the candidates. I think Agatha will read out Serene's statement since she can't make it to the hustings today.
Yeah, sure. So obviously she says, hello, everyone. Apologies, I couldn't be with you all live right now. I appreciate the opportunity to have some of my words read out loud, so it is almost as though I am there. As you know, my name is Sareen Singh, and I am a DPhil postgrad student in criminology with the Faculty of Law. I am also an international student on the Rhodes Scholarship. I tell you about my identities: a postgraduate student, an international student, a funded scholar, not to pitch myself for this position, but rather highlight that I do not need this position. Not for the resume, the money, the fame, none of it. I am running for this position because I know what I can bring to the table and to our Oxford community. And it starts with being someone who is quite literally 0% self-interested and 100% impact focused. The truth is, my intentions are very clear and running, given what I have mentioned. It can only be one thing. I want Oxford to be a better home for students than I have seen it to be. I know you have probably read through my manifesto and looked at my LinkedIn already, but I do promise to give Oxford SU my all if elected. As an educator myself, this work is at the heart of why I do what I do, and it is what I am best at. I promise, if elected, to ensure all students know about the work I do as I do it, holding me accountable to my promises, the voices of students, and the needs of our community. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I love getting to meet people and hearing about their journeys. Smiley face. And then that's the end of the speech. And I guess now that we have done all of the speeches for round one, we're now ready to move on with the second round of questions. And so these second rounds of questions are going to be done in reverse order. We'll have to skip Serene because obviously Serene isn't here to answer the personalized questions. But starting then with Uri, this question is for you. And so you talked about the importance of maintaining an institutional memory and having greater communication with MCRs and JCRs. Oh, I should say, by the way, you have a minute to answer these questions. So starting again. I understand the importance of the SU communicating more clearly with MCRs and JCRs, but the question is, how will you ensure that marginalized voices within specific MCRs and JCRs aren't then left out from the conversation?
Sure, thank you for that question. So about the conversation, sorry, I'll put my timer on. Conversation with JCRs and MCRs. Well, I generally think that one of the strong skills in these positions, because as a student representative, you can never represent all sides all the time. So I think one of the most important things to identify when the moment is where you need to bring the right people at the right moment into the conversation. And I think that I've done this in the past fairly well. So I don't know, recently we had a discussion in my college about suspension. I was like, well, this is something our suspended students should have a look at. So I think basically when I see that there's a conversation that could affect a marginalized community, approach the respective campaign. Like if it's if this is about, for example, disabled students, then approach disabilities campaign and see what they have to say on the issue and try to get broad as view as possible on these matters, basically. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much. Well, and the next question is for Daniel. So you talked about, and again, the timer is 1 minute for this one, that we want to see an increase in sort of the accessibility of both graduate and non-graduate students participating in the student union. And so my question is, how can we increase in particular, because there's lower statistics among grad students participating in the student union, what are your plans for graduate students in the student union participating more?
Yeah, so there's a couple parts of this question. So how will we get kind of students participating in general more, and then specifically how we look at graduate students. So with regards to getting more students in general to participate, one of the things I want to implement is a sort of emerging leaders qualification that we can share with students. And I hope that would kind of provide the skills and experiences needed for students to feel kind of empowered to stand up to leadership roles. And so one thing that we could kind of then integrate into that to make it more applicable to graduate students is to maybe have a customized program. Maybe it will address kind of some of the key issues that are kind of standing as obstacles currently to graduates getting involved. And of course, that would be done in extensive consultation with graduates about kind of what are the barriers that they're facing. And potentially that could be done with the pilot graduates consultation group that's being set up this year by the VP Graduates Debica. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. All right. Well, the next question goes to Marcus, I believe. Again, 1 minute to answer the questions. You talked about how, I mean, I'm a visiting student myself, so I understand the difficulties of arriving to Oxford, and it is a very decentralized system. And I do think that it's important that we have negotiation and collective action, especially. But the problem is that while we can push for collective action, the question is, there's this problem of people not feeling involved with the student union. So most students aren't, one, aware that we have a student union or what it does specifically. So how would you improve communications again with the broader student body to ensure that your goals of collective action are met?
Thanks for the question. I think firstly, communication is a big issue with the union, but students on campus are generally quite aware of the issues that they care about and that affect them. Knowledge, I don't think, is the problem. It's more connection. And I think that can play to the advantage of the student union when it evolves its strategies. If it connects with existing organizations, especially through the campaigns, and increases those campaigns, and works hard to communicate with new students in more accessible ways, then students can absolutely get more involved. The other thing is sometimes if the union shows leadership in these types of areas and pushes something and advertises it as a special strategy in response to something big going on campus, students can rally around it. It's hard to get students involved, especially in the postgraduate community. I understand sometimes you need food, sometimes you need other strategies, but it's absolutely possible.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. And I think the last question goes to Adam. And again, you have 1 minute to answer the question. And so you talked a lot about COVID-19 in particular, and it's just sort of responses to the pandemic. So I'm curious as to like what you think are specific barriers concerning COVID-19 and accessibility that you would like to tackle should you get this position.
Sure. I think, and actually a lot of these, thanks for the question. I think a lot of these things are connected to what has already been discussed. You know, COVID-19 didn't create new problems. It just maybe emphasized things that were already there. So I think working on enhancing communication, but more importantly, you know, one of the things that what people don't realize here in Oxford is that, you know, the first sort of support network is your college, but I think the union should take a more important role in this. So what we had, for example, in Leeds was a very pronounced student hardship fund that I know is here in Oxford as well, but like how to communicate to students like this is here for you, this is here for you to access, and communicate this through MCRs or CCRs or GCRs as well to the student body and engage with them more effectively. But also one of the ways that we could enhance this communication altogether would be to let students propose motions as well and let them know how to do that more effectively. So this is one of the things that could be done.
Got it. Well, and I think that concludes our round of questioning for round 2, which means we're ready to move on to round 3. And we're back to forward order. Geez, sorry. And again, for these questions, you have 1 minute to answer them. And this time it won't be me.
Okay, so I think I'll ask this question to like the same question for every single candidate. And especially, you know, considering how the role of like a student trustee involves like finances and liaising with, you know, trustees who aren't students and the whole stuff regarding legal and financial and long-term goals. My question is, so Oxford is, you know, obviously like a well-renowned university, and we as students at Oxford have like, you know, a unique privilege that students at some kind of, you know, that other different unis don't actually have when it comes to speaking on like international issues, because our voices, you know, are a lot more amplified because people just tend to pay attention to Oxford. And so in the past, like the Oxford Student Union has used this privilege to stand in solidarity with protesters in Hong Kong and in India. So what is your opinion on like whether the Oxford SU should take a more aggressive stance when it comes to human rights issues and in showing their support? Or do you think it should be more directed to like student welfare in general, without, you know, focusing too much on like stuff going on in the wider world outside the Oxford bubble? And if anything, like, should the Oxford Student Union be like completely apolitical? Or yeah, I know 1 minute is probably not enough to give like a, you know, well-rounded answer to this very complex question, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially since, you know, the board of trustees is made up of like multiple people with who will inevitably have like very different opinions. And yeah. Yeah, oh,
I guess if she's frozen for all of you too. Well, then taking the question that, that we've just gotten, then I suppose I'd say that Adam can go first in answering the question. And again, the time is 1 minute.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you a lot for the question. I mean, this is an essential topic, and actually, I don't think that student welfare and international affairs are disconnected. Actually, I think that for most people, especially international students, but also members of communities, whether they're Muslim, whether they are, you know, of diverse backgrounds, international and, you know, conflicts, like they touch you personally. So if the union will show that they care about these communities like struggling under occupation or you know, under an oppressive regime, and if they show solidarity with these people struggling against these kind of regimes and situations, this will actually enhance the welfare. So absolutely, the union, very shortly, the union should stand in solidarity with global movements and should also support student activists and campaigners 100 million%. And look at their investments as well. Look at the investments of the university. Like, you know, don't just say words, do stuff. So yeah.
So thank you. Well, and now we have our original reporter back, so we can move
yeah,
on to
I think I lost. Yeah, my internet was acting up just now. So I missed out on Adam's answer, but yeah, we can proceed with Marcus next.
I absolutely agree with Adam. Being a student at Oxford is political, whether we like it or not. And having the power that we have here and the status we have here can be used for good. And I don't think that's us giving something away or risking something for loss. I think it actually empowers us. Solidarity with other causes, with other unions, with other things that we care about and identify with, strengthens everyone and empowers everyone. And just like we can supply our support for certain efforts, other organizations can support us in our times of need. This might be predictable to say as a human rights lawyer, but these are important issues. And the rights of people suffering under oppression and injustice anywhere are connected with each other and are connected with us here coming from all over the world. The union shouldn't do this at the cost of doing its job for students, but it can use this to help its job be more effective.
Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, next we have Daniel.
Hi. Yeah, I suppose maybe I'll open by kind of echoing what's been said, and there's a deep interconnection between student welfare and current events. I think it's absolutely necessary that the union uses its power and privilege to promote human rights and fight for just causes across the world. I'd add this by saying that, you know, the role of the trustee is to ensure that the charity is achieving its purpose, and our purpose is to create an educational environment in which kind of all students can flourish. And educational environments extend beyond the libraries of the Oxford campus, and it's, you know, it's really about our country as a whole world, the world in which students are living and operating. And so I think, yeah, we have a very a deeply ingrained responsibility to ensure that we are fighting for a world in which all of our students and the wider community will flourish. Thank you.
And yeah, last but not least, let's hear Uri's opinions on this in 1 minute.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I generally agree that obviously there's this strong connection between student welfare and global issues. And I do think Oxford SU should use the power that we have, which can be seen just by the media attention that Oxford SU gets sometimes. I do, however, think we have to be, I think we should have these discussions. I think we should be extremely careful when we have these discussions, because often when we do have discussions and play out a political issue on campus, this can be like really taxing for the people who have to advocate for either, like, for this basically. So I remember in my first year we had this motion about Hong Kong, and I remember the session in student council. I had quite a bad memory from it because it was so contentious. It was a really hard discussion, and I think if we don't approach these situations carefully, then it will be actually counterproductive to students' welfare, just in this process of having to argue strongly about global political issues that affect them basically. So yeah.
Well, I think that also concludes round 3 of questioning. Yay, bravo to everyone. Great speeches all around. And that also in general concludes our HUST process. So I'd like to thank all of you for coming and for giving your speeches, and also for listening to Serene's speech, even though she wasn't here. So very nice, very respectful of all of you. And given that, I think we can end our recording, which I suppose